Alhamdulillah.
نعم نميك إن شاء الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم عليه. So alhamdulillah, I'm honored here to be joined by Habib Ali, mashallah, who is now teaching Arabic, mashallah, to young adults and adults with the aim, I believe, of understanding Fusha and understanding Arabic. And so inshallah, Sidi, if you can just introduce yourself, and inshallah, I think those who are watching will probably be your followers or people who know me, but I think just for our friends, inshallah, perhaps any well-wishers who have known you in school and may not know what you've been doing after, inshallah, if you just begin from there, Sidi, I think, inshallah.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'm Habib. I grew up in Burton-on-Trent, and I went on to study the Arabic language for quite a long time. I did a degree in the Arabic language, and this led me to be really, really passionate about Arabic language learning and the whole culture of learning about other cultures. And so then after I graduated, I worked as a teacher for a while in schools, but then decided that I wanted to do my own thing. So I set up Ihsan Arabic as a platform for people around the UK to learn the Arabic language as a hobby, something around their work life, so something that they can do. And really for me, it was about following my passion for language learning, giving me the chance to continue to look at Arabic every single day, and to do that as a job was, you know, it's very, very rewarding. And so that's where I am today. Outside of Arabic, I guess I still live in the Midlands. I live in Birmingham nowadays. Go back to Burton quite a lot, and you know, I like going to the gym, drawing pictures, hanging out with friends. You know, that all the usual things. You know.
Not sure if drawing is usual.
Drawing, yeah, well, you know, yeah,
if you're an artist,
I mean,
if you're an artist,
seems usual to me. Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in art for as long as I can remember, to some degree, and so one of the things that I bring into the Arabic tradition is design. So I've worked professionally as a graphic designer alongside building this business, and you know, I'm quite familiar with the tools, but also, you know, how to make something look aesthetically pleasing, not just pleasing to the eye, but also user-friendly. So there's a whole discipline to how you present information. You know, everyone knows when they pick up a book that is done well, right? Like the information, it's absorbed a lot easier. And so I bring that to the Arabic tradition. It's the artist, yeah, art is part and parcel of what I do, you know.
Yeah. So Sidi, inshallah, please inform us about Ihsan Arabic and what really led you to choosing teaching Arabic as a profession and something which you wish to do, and also as a service. Inshallah, if you could tell us about the course, and inshallah, yeah, just give us an outline, really.
Yeah, okay, so Ihsan Arabic, we called it Ihsan because we wanted to strive towards an excellent way of teaching Arabic. That was the beginning. Me and my wife, who unfortunately can't come today, but she, we were together on the same university program at the School of Oriental and African Studies in London. And this, so we went down the very academic approach. You know, you could call it Orientalist, meaning it's, I guess, people from the West studying Arabic in the English language, you know. And then we had the complete opposite of that, being in the West Bank, immersed, you know, with Palestinians, learning it all in Arabic. And then we did some courses when we came back to the UK, you know, the kind of things that the Pakistani community has set up. You know, tasted things like the Ireland courses, went to Ibrahim College in London. And we just experienced so many ways of learning Arabic, and they all had their pros and cons. And when we set up Ihsan Arabic, the idea was, okay, so how can we take everything that we think is working really well and you know, bring that to the front? And how can we make a syllabus that is, you know, adaptable, so we can, as we learn and grow as teachers. I've been doing this for 5 years now, and I can tell you my first lessons 5 years ago were nothing compared to the lessons I can give nowadays. And one of the things that I did early on, which I'm really happy about, is I left everything open to be changed, to change over time, so I could improve. So I didn't come and say, this is how you learn Arabic, you need to do it this way. I said, I'm going to work with students to work out how to teach Arabic. Yeah. And even every week, but we've been changing the syllabus, we've been keeping it dynamic. I made some clear design principles straight off the bat to make it easy for me to go back and make changes, so that nothing was, the syllabus isn't set in stone. And every time something went wrong, instead of blaming the students and saying, you guys don't work hard enough, I blamed the syllabus and said, my syllabus is not good enough because it doesn't take into account that people are lazy sometimes. So how can I make a syllabus that works with that? How can I make a syllabus that provides weekly inspiration, keeps people inspired?
I think that the introspection from a teacher is really important, because oftentimes it's, I'm in the position of authority and, you know, you're wrong. Whereas I think, you know, to eradicate the ego, you know, for parents who will be watching this as well, who are also teachers in a manner of speaking, and for teachers alike, it's really to say what's actually going on here, and to get to the root of the issue, as opposed to, you know, engaging with the ego or something which is, you know, in a very superficial way. So see, you touched upon the Arabic and sort of gave haven't really come to the outline of it yet, but why Arabic? What was the initial steps to go towards that? You know, was this something that you had in your mind from a very young age, or did someone say something to you? How did you embark upon that journey of Arabic?
Yeah, okay, well, that's a good question. I mean, obviously, I grew up in a Muslim household, and so Arabic, just as many people do in the UK, you know, Arabic's part and parcel of your daily life. You hear it in the prayers. People are reading the Quran around you. You're learning it. You're learning to read it phonetically, like you're learning to read the sounds of Arabic. And so you're always fascinated by this language, and you always feel a sense of ownership over Arabic. I think if you said even to any British Pakistani, mentioned Arabic to them, they'd feel like, yeah, it's my thing, you know, this is what I grew up around. Like, I'm not new, it's not foreign to me as such. It's I might not understand it, but I hear it every week in the khutbah at the mosque. So it's not like, you know, Chinese or like, you know, it's something familiar. You know, the idea of actually understanding it wasn't something that ever really occurred to me. It's something that I really wanted. It was deep down was a desire that I had right throughout my childhood, because I was always drawn towards things. Like, I used to really enjoy my Quran classes as a kid. I was that kind of person who had a good relationship, I suppose, with that side of things. But I never really thought about myself as studying Arabic, and it wasn't something that I really envisaged for myself. I did A-levels and I did Spanish, and I really started learning.
Was it your guitar teacher who you mentioned?
Yeah, well, this is coming up. Yeah, so I was doing A-levels, and I studied Spanish as a language, and then I also at the time was learning flamenco guitar, which is like a Spanish style of guitar, with a guy called Blue Yates in Baton. He's a great guy. And I used to go to him, and we used to have deep conversations about everything. I used to speak to him about the Deen. He used to speak to me about experiences that he'd had. And obviously, I probably mentioned, I can't really remember, but I must have been speaking to him about things to do with Arabic at the time. I was probably trying to make dawah to him as well, you know, a little bit. And
I take it.
he was
Well,
Allahu Alam,
he was
but
bringing you closer to your faith.
I suppose so. Yeah. And he was a very amazing guy as well. Really, I mean, like he's he's very considerate man and an inspiration for all of his students. So for me, learning the guitar, you know, it wasn't just learning the guitar. It was it was spending time around someone and learning how to be and learning how to perform, getting over your nerves, all that kind of thing. But anyway, yeah, I was asking him for life advice at that time. You know, and I said, what should I do? And he said, why don't you study Arabic at SOAS University? Now, I hadn't thought about studying Arabic, and I didn't even know what SOAS University was. But he picked that out.
You know, on the apparent, it's a random statement.
Yeah, it seemed to me quite random at the time, but I went back home and I Googled SOAS University, and it seemed like the place that was waiting for me because it was full of people like me. I'm slightly mixed up, I suppose. Like growing up in Burton was quite interesting because Burton, you know, you had the white area and you had the Pakistani area, and my mom's English and my dad's Pakistani. I grew up in Winsell, which is like, you know, if you're Pakistani, especially at that time, Winsell was not a place where
the no-go area.
Yeah, the no-go area. But then also like Bun area was a no-go area for the white people. So I used to walk freely through both of these areas. Not really, I was quite naive, I suppose, when I was younger, and not really.
It was just polarized opposites, wasn't it? I mean, you had this is our area, that's your area.
Yeah.
And then Abu Bain was an interesting proposition because it was like, I mean, for my brother's generation and the first generation, sort of grappling with the element of the unknown, you know, someone who has a different color to me. But alhamdulillah, I think when we were there, it was okay.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, it depends how sorry for yourself you want to be. You know, you can get over it and just like accept it, or you can be like, yeah, that time being, you know, there was a lot of difficulty on both sides, but on the other hand, what I'm saying is like when I saw SOAS, I was like, okay, these people from all over the world coming, who, like most people, like SOAS is really mixed and international. So the idea of going to a place like that seemed like, oh, maybe this is a place where I feel at home. And so yeah, I applied, and you know, it was about me. I mean, obviously, deep down, I was studying Arabic because I wanted to understand the Quran. Like, I wouldn't have done it otherwise. You know what I mean? Like, but I wanted to leave home. I wanted to go to get out, and you know, the standard things at that age that you want to do.
So, inshallah, give us an overline or an overview of who would your students be that you'd be looking to teach, and what would really attract them, and also just a general outline of what they'd be studying.
Yeah, okay. So the students who we teach, or we currently teach, they're men and women, but we segregate the classes. So I teach the brothers and my wife teaches the sisters. And they're generally people who have, they want to incorporate Arabic into their life in the same way that someone might incorporate something like a hobby that they have into their life. So let's say you're someone who plays five-a-side football, right? You're not trying to be a professional football player, right? You haven't got the time, but you just enjoy playing football and it adds something to your life. Then that's the approach we take with Arabic. So, you know, you study for an hour a week with us. You join a small group, maximum 6 students. At the higher levels, maximum 5 students. And you make friends with people on the course and you progress at a manageable rate. In 2 years' time, over the course of 2 years, you get to the level where you can start reading texts like the Qisas al-Nabiyyin, the stories of the prophets, peace be upon them. And you can do so in a way which you're very confident. Like you have a good understanding. Like it's not like you're kind of glossing over things. And from that point, you know, you have the ability to be you're like a seasoned Arabic student at that point, you know. So that's what really it's for. And you know, age-wise, I mean, we start at 16. people after 16, they generally join us, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's just because it's quite a mature approach. I mean, I've taught kids before, but I generally focus on the adults because we want to be really good at one thing, you know.
Yeah, no. So see, inshallah, delving deeper, inshallah, into Ihsan Arabic. What does it offer?
What does it offer for you? It offers everything you need to make Arabic your hobby. That's what I'd say. Like, literally, like, let's say if you're sitting there, you're saying, you know what, I've always been interested in this Arabic thing. I want to be an Arabic person, but I don't know how. And then you go to a place and they're like, okay, yeah, you can come here, but you have to sit down. You have to do 5 hours a week. It's going to be strict. You're going to have to, and like, they're like, oh, whoa, calm down. Like, I'm not sure about that. And then they're like, I just want to, like, you know, just find out about this Arabic thing, learn it, get, you know, but gradually at my own pace. That's what Ihsan Arabic's for. It's not like for people who, you know, want to drop everything in their life and study Arabic. If that's the case, then I suggest you go to the Middle East. Yeah, we are, I'd say, one of the best places for people in the West who want to have Arabic in their life. Like, if you're in the West and you want to, like, bring, also if you want to do it in a very structured way, where you don't have to do too much of the groundwork because everything's made for you, and you like really nice resources, and you like a teacher who really cares and a teacher who's been through it themselves, then Ihsan Arabic is the place for you. We know we just love Arabic so much. So, you know, if I'm not teaching Arabic, we're thinking about something, we're learning a new mathal, a new like an I suppose a mathal is like a saying or something like that, or we're reading something, or we're finding out what people are saying in the Arabic news at the moment. We're not really too precious about the type of Arabic. I mean, we definitely teach Fusha, MSA, and the course kind of brings people towards learning the Quran, right? So, like, you're definitely going to move in the direction of understanding the Quran if you take our course as well. I'd say that's what it's really fun. It's like we do have non-Muslims studying with us, but we're kind of catering towards people who want to build their connection with the Quran, because that's the majority of people. That's the reason why they study Arabic, and that, you're never going to find a better Arabic than the Quran. So you may as well, you know what I mean? It's like a no-brainer to occasionally. Every class that we do starts with an ayah of the Quran that deals with the grammar concept that you've just learned. So you'll learn something, and then next class you turn up and you just read an ayah and you're like, whoa, I understand that.
Yeah, we did the same when we were going through. Exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like, pick apart the words. The verse on it. So it was twofold, really. Looking at the sarf and the nahaw of it, and then also looking at the meaning, really, and then also going into that.
I write books as well. So I write books about learning Arabic. I've got there's 3 books so far which I've got online. One of them is just called 10 Arabic Gems, and it's just like really cool things about Arabic. Like,
what we'll do is, inshallah, we'll share that afterwards, I think, because we've got a lot to discuss, inshallah. But see, I think do you generally want to go into some of the different courses that you have, or, you know, the different topics, or
yeah,
do you feel like
I mean, the way you'd interact with Ihsan Arabic, like I say, we all our courses are 14 weeks long. Every course we offer, 14 weeks, and they're in levels. So let's say you did level 1, you'd study for 14 weeks. At the end of that, you'd have a quiz, a little test to check your knowledge. And if you do good enough, you made good progress, you go on to level 2. Again, another 14 weeks, 1 hour a week. And so there's 6 levels in total. And so that will take roughly about 2 years when you take into account the fact that some people have breaks of a week between Eids, things like that. It all mounts up, and eventually it takes around 2 years. That's very rough, because we generally open courses. It's quite bespoke for people. And Like it depends when the dates fit. We generally try and find a time that's good for everyone. Is there anything else that you think I missed about talking about the courses?
I don't think you've gone into much detail, really. I think generally you've mentioned what it does for people, but I think for someone who's watching it, they still don't know what exactly the topics are.
Oh, okay. Well, the topic is Arabic.
In terms of the courses generally, if you were to give a general
Yeah, okay.
outline
I see what you mean. Yeah. So let's say you would study.
like someone's watching this, they want to know, okay, first year, I'm going to be studying this, second year, this. It's not really quite transparent at the moment.
Yeah, okay. So when you study, let's say you are studying modern foreign language, like Spanish or German, what kind of things could you expect to study? Well, the first thing you're going to look at is very, very basic things like hello, how are you? Yeah, my name is. This is how we're going to start in level 1. We don't start in Arabic teaching people the alphabet. We teach people after they've finished learning the alphabet. So like qaida, you know, the qaida that people study generally at mosque when they're younger, or if they haven't got there, occasionally we will do that, but we stop doing that because we want to focus on the language. And also, so generally people come with an ability to read the letters. That's where our course starts. And then the first classes, they're going to be learning how to say simple sentences, like very simple things like this is a book, that is a house, you know. And we introduce them to concepts of language that everyone needs to know, like what is gender in language? Like why do languages have gender? How come Arabic has gender, and what does that mean for Arabic? How can I tell if a word's masculine and feminine? What about definite and indefinite? What's the difference between saying el masjidu or masjidun? Yeah, and what's the difference there? Why do we do that? And so we really explain in English what this idea of definite and indefinite is, what the idea of gender is, and then we speak to people about case. And I've been doing lots of work on how to explain the idea of case, which is a very ancient concept in languages that languages like Latin have, and Arabic has, but you know, I mean, people don't understand it nowadays because we don't have it in modern English. So we explain that, and then, you know, 6 weeks through the course, you're starting to introduce verbs. So now you can say things like the man ran to the shop. And you're also building your conversational skills. You're saying, where do you live? I'm from this place. I'm happy. I'm sad. Pass me the book. And then by the end of the course, we actually delve into the root system of Arabic. So we learn about what is a 3-letter root, what's this idea of roots and patterns. And so, you know, for example, the word katib is coming from the root kaf ta ba, and how did it get there from that root? How come the idea of writing became a writer? And how could I do that with other nouns? Like maybe I could say tajir, you know, and it's on the same pattern. And so we really go into the mechanisms of the Arabic language. That will leave you at level 1. Level 2, we look at plurality. All the time we're practicing the 4 core skills of learning a language, which is speaking, listening, reading, and writing. So people are speaking, they're saying things out loud, they're hearing, they're handwriting, because we have sheets. Everyone has supplementary resources that they get with each course for free, and they're writing this out, and we mark the homework. And they're also reading regularly. The class has lots of reading exercises in there.
I think it's good that you're explaining and breaking it down, because I think as a student or an intelligent student, like you want to know the why, and it's really the why that interests you. And I think sometimes with a language, it can be a bit dull if it's just memorization, if it's just daraba, daraba, darabu, and you just, you know, how it's taught traditionally. It's like, okay, these are just words and sounds, and obviously there's a wisdom behind it, but I think sometimes the teacher has to bring that to life and say, you know, daraba zaydun bakran as an example, like, you know, and then make a story, or really at some point introduce it and make it relevant to the person. Otherwise it's just words, and there's it's not tangible in any way. You can't really, you know, interact with it. So alhamdulillah, I'm glad to hear you talk about the patterns and so on and so forth. And I think you're teaching it in the right way. How I was taught, alhamdulillah, and traditionally Arabic was taught to really break it down. And I think it was Imam Ahmad Rida Khan, you know, one of our great scholars who belongs to the Islamic tradition. He said that if you're not able to express something, you don't know it.
Right. Okay. Yeah,
you get a lot of intellectuals now, and even people say this in university. They say, "Oh, my teacher couldn't teach." It's like, hold on a minute. He's an expert on the, you know, on his topic, but he's an expert in terms of writing, as he touched upon the 4 ideas. But he's not an expert in the art of teaching. So you can be a master at your subject. Doesn't mean you're a master teacher. It's different. You get great people who are footballers, but when they come to coaches, you know, they're a shadow of what they were as a footballer. Yeah. So I think teaching is a separate art. It really, you do have to sort of begin with the first premises. And, you know, I think not everyone is able to really mirror and imitate the character of their teachers, because, you know, it requires a level of intelligence, I would say. But mashallah, it's good to hear that you guys are teaching in the right way. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I think being a teacher is like the ultimate. If you can keep yourself humble, like being a teacher and staying humble is really hard. Yeah, because basically you're in a position of telling people what to do, and no one likes to change their mind. No one likes to change their mind. Yeah, and people like telling people what to do deep down. Like there's the propensity for human beings to be like, you know, I know. Yeah, and so like, and I think the problems with a lot of Arabic programs comes
from being in the comfort zone, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not even just in teaching. You know, if you look at it socially, in terms of history, people have been in power. They're very reluctant to give up power. I mean, who would?
yeah, absolutely. And also, just like it's hard work. You know, like if you decide, like one day you sit there and you think, oh, you know what, I shouldn't have taught that in that lesson. I should have taught it a bit later on. Yeah. Now I got to redo all the resources. And redo everything. And then everything goes out of sync. So as a teacher, it's really understandable that lots of teachers have a propensity to be like, this is how you learn Arabic. Yeah. The way to learn Arabic is this way, and this is right. And I'm asking the question why to them. I'm like, you haven't done any scientific like studies to prove your point. So why, like, what do you have to back you up when lots of people have learned language in other ways? Like, I don't mind if you think it's the best way, but what do you have to back you up about that? Have you tried another thing?
What's your evidence to support that now?
And I don't have much evidence, to be honest, because every student that I teach is different, right? And so I have evidence.
It's a good place to be.
Yeah, it's like
you're coming from a very empirical point of view, whereas teaching is very subjective. It's not objective.
Exactly.
You look at the Prophet ﷺ with the Sahaba, and I mentioned this recently, and it's just the same point that there's not one lesson that you're given in an objective way sometimes. I mean, the lesson is objective, but teaching as an art form, as a science, is not objective. So, you know, if you're teaching someone who's autistic, like they say, I mentioned the Prophet ﷺ first, you look at the Sahaba and they were different people. As Sayyidina Abu Bakr was a friend, so the relationship's different. And, you know, the Prophet ﷺ knew him, you know, prior to Islam very intimately. And so, you know, there's those things that, okay, the relationships prior, if you know your students, and so there's a lot of different factors, really. You can't go into it just, you know, carte blanche as in this is how it's going to be, and every student's going to fall into that paradigm, because you'll get a very intelligent person who will ask you a question and the paradigm's gone. And, you know, like, so the companions are different. You know, you had, you know, those who would, you know, who were very unique. I used the term maverick last time, you know, bereft of all negative connotations, that, you know, who would do things which were very, you know, innovative. Not in terms of bid'ah, but innovative in terms of a new practice, in terms of linguistical expression, I mean. And the Prophet ﷺ will smile at those people, knowing that where they come from, they don't intend harm. You know, sometimes in a class, if you have a student who is very outspoken, the other students look at him like, why are you asking questions? Like, don't you get it? You're not supposed to ask questions, but they don't understand that he's more intelligent than them. And you know
Yeah.
the relationship is different. And that's one thing. And the other thing is, I think it was Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, and sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that, you know, one of his students, he had to explain the same masala, they say 40 times. And Imam Shafi'i would pull him to a side and say, you know, come and sit now. And we just, for hours, give him hours. So obviously, you know, that's an inspiration for myself and yourself, being teachers who are in that same field. But I think the greatness of a teacher really is to be fluid, that you don't really have a form.
Yeah.
And that a student can come to you and you adopt the form that student requires. This is why the Prophet ﷺ said that, you know, umirna an nukallim an-nasa ala qadri uqulihim. The Prophet ﷺ said that we prophets have been ordered an nukallim an-nasa ala qadri uqulihim, that we have been ordered to speak according to the level of the people to whom we are talking. So oftentimes people think dawah is, I am going to teach you. Is what does this person need?
Yeah.
So, you know, a real friend is not the one who gives you his opinion, it's the one who gives you what you need. There's a very, you know, there's a difference, a very stark difference. Oftentimes people get advice wrong because it's full of nafs. Yeah, but why would you do that? I think you should do that. And they don't look at the heart, and they don't look at the state in which that person is, which is why a mufti, I've started a speech now, a mufti has to know hal al-mustafti. He has to know that the hal is a very broad statement. He has to know the country, he has to know the muqtadayat, he has to know the experiences of that person, the language he has to know, because is it kinaya, is it sarih, you know, is a person joking here? All of those things, you know, the personality of a person and all of the things which contribute to language and the statements and the meanings, you know, you have to engage with that at that level. And parents as well, I think, you know, if your child comes home one day, is acting differently, why? You know, you have to go deeper.
No, absolutely. Yeah. That's perhaps the most amazing thing about being in this position of being a teacher is that you get to spend time around people and you realize how like diverse the minds of people are. Like everyone has different strengths and weaknesses, and it's crazy sometimes. So sometimes you can think, the student, you're like, he's really struggling. Okay, this is going to be, it's going to be a long one. And then you find out that he's amazing in a different topic. Like the minute he starts speaking, it's just flowing for him. Yeah. But you know, so yeah, it's amazing.
100%. And you have to bear in mind that, everyone's experiences are different. Some people read more, some people read less, some people are more sporty, and so they need more practical things and so on and so forth. So, actually, we've kind of touched upon it. But what are some of the, I kind of have touched upon. If you want to mention anything else, what are the experiences and challenges you faced? You know, maybe from the community we could possibly touch upon, or your course, you know, and your teaching. Really, take it in any direction you want, or even family.
Yeah, that's a big question. I think I need to give it some boundaries before in terms of there's obviously, I'll give you a couple of, and then you can just pick one, right? So it could be like challenges in terms of setting up the business, or it could be challenges.
Yeah, that would be good.
And so
I think setting up, teaching, and the wider social response.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the interesting things with the Arabic language, right, is that oftentimes when people have interacted with learning Arabic, it does get kind of mixed in with learning the deen, yeah, naturally, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. The two things often go together, but the fact of the matter is that most people who go to an Islamic talk, they don't come away from that with practical Arabic knowledge. Like that's not what it's for, right? And learning Arabic as a skill that you're going to actually use to communicate, that is going to take a longer time. My old teacher said it's like learning the violin. Yeah, it's like a serious thing that you're doing when you learn Arabic. Like it's not like it takes hard work. You need to sit down, you practice it, and you know, get the pen and paper out, and it's going to take years. And It's not something you can just sit down and come away with. And some people, when they study Arabic, they come at it from that point of view. They think Arabic's going to be like going to an Islamic talk, maybe, right? And yeah, walk in the park, or they're going to meet amazing. Arabic, the language is amazing, but you have to meet it halfway. So, you know, when people come, you go to a talk again, and you know, and you get these amazing things told to you in your language, and you can come away with this amazing feeling of just some profound insight. With Arabic, those profound insights are definitely going to come, but you got to work for them. You know, you got to put in the work, and then and you can't just sit back.
Everything. A lot of time, people now, teachers, they give the example of any science, really. I mean, whilst you were talking, I was thinking it's with anything. Like, it really depends on the student. How serious are you? But then, yes, it's true that the topic, objectively speaking, you know, certain things are harder than others. Now, Arabic as a language, if you're an intelligent student, you've got a good memory and, you know, the rational faculty, you'll pick it up a lot easier, of course, you know, because that's what intelligence is essentially. But at the same time, you know, it's just easier for certain people. But at the same time, you know, another side of looking at it is, you know, there's a lot of letters. I think it's the second largest language, or I can't remember what rank it has. But, you know, it has, I think, 4 or 5 more letters than English, I think, last time I can't remember. But so you know, there's a lot more depth, and, you know, there's a lot more forms, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely harder to learn than English, for sure. So, but in terms of like when I set up a business, I set up primarily, like I say, I wanted to do something, but I wanted to fund it myself, and I wanted it to be self-funding. So I wanted to make it affordable for people, but also affordable for myself, so I'd keep on doing it. And obviously that's I had to learn how to run a business. You know, everything from how to market, how to advertise, how to run, you know, a service for people that is predictable and professional, and that has been a learning curve in itself. I'd say, you know, having the Arabic knowledge is one thing, but learning, I mean, I read books about this, you know, like, you know, I studied it just like I studied Arabic. Like, how do you make a business work? You know, understanding social media, how to work with social media to get the voice out. And so that's there's been challenges.
You don't want to leave this podcast?
Sorry?
So, are you sure you don't want to leave this podcast?
Leave it. Lead it. Oh, I don't know. I did do a little bit of podcasting in the past, but, you know, I think you're much better qualified than I am to lead. But yeah, but I mean, that's been a lot of work as well, and that's been a challenge. And sometimes you put a lot of work in and you don't get anything back. Like, it's just the fact of the matter is, you know, you do a long time making a social media post, but other times it comes in, and sometimes when you least expect it. But I think we don't have the kind of, like, the relationship that we have with our students is like we're providing them a service, right? And, you know, if we don't give them the service, they have every right to complain. Yeah. And I don't know how that is. I don't know. It'd be interesting to get your opinion on. That's not traditionally, right, how mosques have run, right? Or like how teachers working in mosques. And there seems to be more like, no, you come to the teacher, and the teacher has a position of authority. And I think that's quite an amazing thing. Really.
The Prophet ﷺ said, "Kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi," which translates as, each one of you is literally a shepherd, and each one of you is responsible for his flock, which, you know, in terms of normal meaning, means each one of you is responsible, a leader, and each one of you is responsible for those who come under that responsibility. Now, yourself being, you're responsible for your students, but people who are work in any manner, really, you know, an elder brother for young, you know, the elder sibling for younger siblings has influence, has responsibility, and wherever we look socially, you know, the elder for the younger, you know, the people of authority, you know, within dunya and deen. So it's all encompassing, the statement. So they have responsibility. So I think if you have responsibility, you can be taken into account. But then it's going to be the person above you who in essence is the person to whom you complain. is the complaint faculty. So the elder sibling is accountable to the parent. The parent is accountable to the parent above him. The teacher, his teacher. So I think, for example, if someone didn't like what I say, of course they can go and complain to my teacher, or they can have a conversation with my teacher, and I would facilitate that for them. But at the same time, I agree. There has to be some element of accountability. Look, Sayyidina Umar on the minbar was corrected, and Sayyidina Umar said that person is correct on the minbar. On the minbar, Sayyidina Umar was corrected, and so if he thought he was above the law, or if he was above people, then he wouldn't have taken that.
Yeah,
and we know that.
I think slightly different thing that I was saying. I mean, it's a really good point, but it's slightly different from what I was saying.
It's linked because in essence, what you're asking is, that responsibility of quality, review really. But I'm saying who, for example, yourself, like, say your student didn't like what you do, where does he go? Does your service, does it end at you? And if it does, that's fine.
That's the thing. He just doesn't come back, right? And then you lose that customer.
Well, obviously you want to see what's missing there is that facility of the complaints kind of idea, really. So if you look at, in essence, you're offering a course. So what I would say to you is, those policies, or that accessibility should be there, and the student should be made comfortable, because otherwise, where are you going to get feedback? How do you know what you're doing is working?
We ask for feedback. We give students questionnaires at the end.
So then there, obviously just put the questions in and so on and so forth. But in essence, really, all it comes down to is just making sure that you're asking the question from time to time, and ensuring that students are, and then asking them as well, as a person, how are you finding this, so on and so forth. Because I think sometimes, obviously I gave high examples, but it's the same point really, that you do have to have a level of interaction with your congregation or your students in terms of, is this working or not? There's no point going on if it's not working. You understand?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, do you see what you do as running a business, or is it?
Well,
would you use different language?
I wouldn't get too stuck on rhetoric and semantics, because it's not always possible. You have to look, matters of the heart and lata'if and daqa'iq, subtleties of the language or the heart or the mind and language, sometimes they go beyond the realm of language. So it's not, you can't always merge the two. For example, if a scholar, an English scholar, for example, if he was filling out a form and the question said, what's your profession? And he says, I'm too humble to write scholar. You know what I'm saying? At that moment, the person wants you to genuinely answer what your profession is. If someone takes calls for a living, and says, I'm a retail salesman or whatever it is, I don't know what, whatever it is, he's not going to feel humble, or he's not going to feel arrogant if he's stating what he's doing. So I think sometimes these things are blown out of proportion and they're not put in context. So I don't worry about these things, and I wouldn't worry about these things, to be honest with you, because it's in the realm of language. It's not to do with the heart. The heart, that's a different realm. Are you humble? That's different. What you do as a profession, that's different.
But I mean, I just mean it's
so to answer your question, sorry, is it a service or not? Obviously I was just giving that as an example, but what I'm saying is the Arabic, see, because we think in Arabic, our own culture, we say khidmah, it's a khidmah that I'm doing, it's a service, right? But we understand khidmah to be like this fi sabilillah, non-reciprocated, monetary, thing that we do, action that we do.
Like charity or something.
Almost like charity, but not necessarily using the word charity. But what I'm saying is, you're working So what you're doing really falls onto your work. You know, it's your work. So for me, the word that I would use is a work. But obviously, when you're, you know, talking about what you're going to do, you're going to say the courses that we offer or the services that we offer. Now, the monetary side of it doesn't come into it because it's to do with your work now. This is what I'm saying to you. People are bringing two different things and it doesn't work. There's a ikhtilaf, there's a conflict. You know, the service that you provide in a non-monetary way, like an NGO, for example, you know, a non-profitable charity, that's one thing. And someone taking monetary payments for a course that he does as a part of his risk, that's another thing. Who's going to argue against taking money for courses if you're a teacher? You know, it's like a teacher going to school and saying, I'm not going to take my salary.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. I see what you mean. It makes a lot of sense.
You know, obviously, religious concepts, they don't always mix with worldly concepts. Keep them separate.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I think with Ihsan Arabic it's difficult to say. It's not explicitly religious. Do you see what I mean? Like,
yeah, but look,
like what?
Either it falls as work or it's a service which you're taking a monetary payment for. But again, it's going to come down to the same thing because why are you taking the payment? For your risk, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, even if you were to take, you know, a monetary payment as like, which would in Arabic the hukm would be like nafal. So you're just taking a payment because you're well within your rights at the end of the day to take a payment. It's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that because if it's your work, then you're well within your right because it falls as part of your sustenance. Even if you don't, it's mubah really. It's permissible, and no one can really say anything against you. Like, for example, if I come to cut your grass in your garden and I say, look, I'm giving my time and my effort, I want you to give me £10 for that hour, and we come to a mutual agreement, no one can really say anything. It's between myself and yourself. I'm the employer or whatever it is, and you're the employee, or the other way around.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, of course. And that's all.
Who can argue with that?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And that's I guess that's what we're doing with Ihsan Arabic as well. Yeah, I'm very, very open about that, you know, in a sense.
So Sidi, so as for teaching, some of the experiences and challenges you face, Bismillah, inform us, inshallah.
Teaching, you know, I mean, definitely teaching Arabic is you know, you're biting off a big thing because people don't even really know what Arabic is. You know, when they think about a language, they think in the sense of like English, right? So, you know, if you learn English, if you learn to speak English, you're going to be able to read and you're going to be able to speak, and the two things are kind of very close. But with Arabic, you know, you've got the Amiyya and the Fusha, meaning you've got the dialects and you've got the standard. And so when people learn the standard,
formal language, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And when they learn the standard and they rock up in the Arab world and struggle to speak, that can be frustrating for some people. And so for me, it's balancing that approach, not becoming a course which is just, you know, completely based on, is this majroor or is it mansub? You know, not completely based on i'rab, but benefiting from the goodness that has. So basically bridging the gap between creating an alive language experience and then a very academic.
Is the truest way to teach it, really, because at the end of the day, like I said, you're going into the, you know, the substance of what the language is. So see, what are some of the challenges you faced? We spoke about some of the experiences in terms of students being, you know, from a variety of different backgrounds and in terms of teaching them, but I guess I just fall into the challenges really, but I was thinking more so in terms of any direct challenges that you faced. Any instances come to mind?
I mean, sometimes balancing different approaches that people have, you know, like sometimes you get people who are very, you know, very talented at reading, but not so good at speaking, and then you have someone else in the same class who's opposite. And so it's like bridging the gap of like giving someone everything they need. We spoke earlier about this idea of every student needing, you come at them from a different point of view. But when you're teaching a group of people, especially online, that becomes more difficult to provide something that's good for everyone. That's what I suppose I've become good at throughout the time. It's like creating an environment where everyone feels like they have time and a personal connection, and that they're being cared for. And sometimes people come, I mean, my major problem, my major problem is students not learning the vocab.
not doing the homework.
Yeah, well, just learning vocabulary for students is hard because it's relentless. You only learn Arabic, right? You got to keep learning those words. But sometimes when students come and they haven't learned their 10 words, because every week they learn 10 words, they haven't learned their 10 words, then there's limited I can do to work with that a lot of the time. So then we end up learning the words in class.
Yeah.
So that's a big challenge. That's probably the major challenge that we have. People not learning. And I know what it's like, because when I was a student, I used to come to class without knowing my vocab sometimes, and it's easy to think.
Inshallah, we've got some good questions. Inshallah, I think we'll go into them.
Okay.
About 20 minutes, I think. So inshallah, in terms of a career path, you mentioned that obviously it's a 5th year teaching, and I think, is it a 2-year course in total time, or is it longer?
Yeah.
So inshallah, you would have been through two batches of students, two alumni. So inshallah, where are some of the things that they've gone on to, or in terms of a career path? Anyone watching this thinking, I want to do this, but is really wondering, where can I go from this? Inshallah, what are some of the things? Has anyone taken this forward and as a career path? Or
it preps the ground for you to be able to study Arabic at a more deeper level if you want to. So I mean, like, for example, I've got a student who he's been studying with me for 2 years, and he's basically the level now that I was in my 2nd year of the degree, right? And so it's crazy what studying in small groups can give you in that sense. In terms of a career path, I mean, there's teaching that you can do. There's definitely travel in the Middle East. People who study with me have gone on to, like, I teach someone at the moment who's now relocating to Abu Dhabi, but he works as like in the healthcare industry, so he's a doctor, but he was going to use that in his career when he gets to the Middle East to be to help him. I mean, in terms of like, I mean, I guess you could teach Arabic as well. I mean, there's lots of people who want to learn Arabic. Translation is very you can take a lot more years of study to get into. You could go on again. I always say that you come out and that's where you start studying. You could spend time in the Middle East to really perfect your language and go further. But I think we're not targeting towards people who want to do Arabic as a career, but more people who want to make Arabic part of their life, like as a hobby.
So what I'm just thinking, what level would they be when they finish? Could they go and do like a degree, or so they'd be beyond a degree, wouldn't they? Really?
Yeah. Well, because Arabic degrees in the UK start from Alif Ba Ta Tha. That's what I mean. I knew it already, but that's what our degree started from. You start from a complete beginner.
Because you've done a degree, so
yeah,
you'd know really in terms of where your student finishes, if it's worth them doing a degree, or are they already at that level? Because it's interesting, because essentially if they're at that level through your course, then alhamdulillah, good level to be at.
Yeah, you know what it is? A degree is so much more than, like, okay, if you are going to uni just to get knowledge, yeah, like just to learn an academic subject, then I'd say don't bother. Because yeah, I mean, you can just do it through our courses for way cheaper, and to be honest, in some ways better. Like, not everything about our degree was there's some problems with that, but a degree offers a lot more. Like, a degree offers you like a whole social environment, connections to people, an experience. It's also face to face. That's amazing. I mean, like, we also at SOAS, we did so many other things other than just pure Arabic language as well. Like, we studied classical Arabic texts. Like, we were reading texts by like Sheikh Hakim Murad in our lessons. Like, we were reading his his writing, you know, academically, his English papers I'm talking about. We were writing essays, so we were learning to write like a humanities degree. So it's more than just the Arabic language. Arabic language was like half of it, maybe.
But in terms of the actual level of the Arabic, what would you say? So final year BA student and someone who's finished your course, are there similar?
I mean, a final year BA student isn't really a brilliant example. But yeah, I mean, people who finished our course probably around a similar level, yeah. Because they have private tuition. They have private tuition. But I mean,
so, you know, sometimes you can get into a master's without quote unquote doing a BA in terms of an unorthodox route. I know SOAS has that pathway sometimes. If you go, you know, if you go to a madrasa or if you've done a course like yourself, which is private, they appreciate it. They recognize it. And obviously, you being a graduate of the BA program, it will hold weight. So I'm just thinking, if anyone was looking at this as a career path, I think it could, you know, it could work.
Maybe. I mean, hopefully, the more people we
should look into, you know, see if you can get accreditation for your course. So it's a proper thing.
Yeah. Eventually, inshallah. Yeah. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Like,
speak to your teachers and professors, whatever it is, and just see, you know, because might be a viable thing to do.
For sure. Yeah. But also, like, I mean, like, just having the skill of Arabic as something, it will allow you to do other things. Like, you know, if you ever wanted to do an Arabic GCSE.
Yeah. The skill of language is interesting because I think once you've studied language, any one language, and you understand just how to construct something, it's very interesting because the mental processes and the very intellectual processes that you're doing, you know, affects your view on life. You know, so it's like a mechanic who knows how to break something apart and then construct it again. He looks at life in a very different way. In a very mechanical way. And that's interesting because, I mean, we know that classical scholars were trained in logic and rhetoric and these things, and the elite in the Western world, once knowledge came from Muslim Spain and so on and so forth, or you could say, you know, ancient Greece and, you know, and so on and so forth, that, you know, Aristotle, Plato and so on, that these, you know, they had some of those tools really, and it was the elite who had access to that. And yes, it's interesting because that's why Allah says those who know are not different to those who do not know. They're different, you know. Those who know see life in a different way, and there's a higher rank there too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Arabic, I think, okay, nowadays in this day and age, you got AI coming out, right? A lot of the skills which previously were very useful to society are now becoming automated, right? And then what's the point in learning Arabic, you might say? We've got Google Translate, like we've got it's really good now. It's like getting really good. Like, why do I need to learn this? Yeah, I've got like 10 translations of the Quran by pretty good academics, like really good academics, some of them. Like, why do I need to learn Arabic? And I would say, well, okay, well, we got cars now. Why do you need to exercise, right? Like, why don't you just catch a car every single place? Like, in fact, you know what? Just get a mobility scooter and go around the house with a mobility scooter. And because we don't need it, we need to do it. And you say, well, what if I did that? Then my muscles would rot, right? And I'd be so weak that I probably, if I never walked, then eventually I'd lose the ability to walk altogether, right? And so learning Arabic is like the perfect way to exercise your mind, right? Because it will sharpen your mind, and it's like going to the gym every week for your mind and make you a better person. It doesn't mean that like we recognize so learning language and that's what it's for. It's not for a career in that sense. It's for you. But if you want to be
it has many factors. One of them is yourself. But I think yeah, that's interesting because exactly what you said, that is knowledge, and as an art form, it's very beneficial for the person himself, in terms of the world, in terms of, you know, the monetary aspect. And even if the monetary aspect isn't there, just for himself, and like you said, sharpening the mind, and his general mentality on life. It's like they say, I think the pink elephant, whatever it is, that once you know something, you can never really unknow it.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you really introduce, or what topics do you want to be introduced to? Because once you know something, you can't go back. You just, you know,
I mean,
and, you know,
yeah,
you go forward.
for sure. I mean, like, if you want me to go into it, I mean, look, there are things in the world that people get interested in. People get interested in football, they get interested in history, they get interested in, you know, people like get interested in like the natural world, or they get into games and stuff. And okay, you've got this amazing set of sounds that have meanings attached to them that no one invented, right? Like, there's no inventor of Arabic, yeah? Like, there's no human sat down and wrote Arabic out. And so it's like, it's almost just as much as part of the natural world as a tree is, right? In some ways, right? Because people inherited it, they worked with it, maybe, yeah? They maybe refined it, but then they just passed it on to the next generation, and it's developed throughout time. And not only that, it's like the one form that the Quran came down in, right? And so as Muslims, every single connection between letter has meaning to us in some way or another. Yeah, like it has something in there. Like you can be like, whoa, look at that. Do you realize that, for instance, the root of Jannah is the same as the root as the jinn?
Yeah.
And you're like, what's the connection there? How is Jannah and jinn share the same root? And then you realize, someone tells you, they're like, well, Jannah is a garden that's so green and luscious that you can't see the soil, right? And so it's hidden from our eyes. And a jinn is also hidden from our eyes. And so there's a connection between these two. There's two words. And then you've got things like rahama, being for mercy, but also for womb. And
that's the more commonly known one.
Oh yeah, the Jannah one is kind of like, this one is not so known actually, but
there's a lot, a lot as well. Ain as you know, spring and so on and so forth.
Yeah, like an I and
there's more synonym. Yeah, no.
Yeah. So you're learning these connections, and so you know, you're really tapping into something quite profound here, you know.
So see, I think we touched upon it, but I guess I'll ask the question if anything else comes to your mind. Why Arabic? Or what is the importance of Arabic?
Okay. What is the importance of Arabic? I mean, I'd say that Arabic has an elevated status among languages. Okay, first and foremost, it's elevated status by the fact that the Quran came down in Arabic, right? And so immediately there is an urgency to learn Arabic that that people recognize all over the world. And that has many ripple effects, because the fact that the Quran came down, everything starts with the Quran coming down in Arabic, right? Like everything starts with that, but that has so many ripple effects. The fact that that is the case means that it's such a widely spoken language and it's widely understood language. It's like one of the top languages. It always changes, but it's definitely within the top like 10 languages, if not the top 5. There's a difference of opinion because of people saying about dialects and things, but regardless, it's very, very widely spoken, right? The way from Morocco going all the way to Afghanistan, you find people, and then you can even go to the Far East, places like Indonesia, and people will be speaking Arabic. So it's a kind of passport to understanding people from many places in the world. And And also, I mean, why Arabic? I mean, there's a beauty in the Arabic language in the root system. And the root system means there's three consonants, three letters in a particular order, which allows you to trace meaning and connection in the languages very easily. It's like Arabic is a bit like an open book. You can see where meanings come from and where meaning's going. Whereas in English, it's not so easy to do that. Not to say that, you know, that's just a different language. Also, Arabic is so old. Like if you rewind 500 years in the English language, you can't understand what they're saying, right? Like seriously, like English has changed a lot over the last 500 years. Open Shakespeare, you're probably going to struggle to understand a lot of what Shakespeare wrote without footnotes. Whereas Arabic has remained relatively similar for more than 1,000 years. And those 1,000 years also went through civilizations which were at the peak and were at the top of the world. Like it passed through a time when the Islamic world was basically the premier civilization. And so that meant that everything to do with medical treaties, scientific, mathematical, cultural, historical, travel writing in the form of Ibn Battuta, for example, it's written in Arabic. And so if you want to access this huge wealth of knowledge, then again, this is why Arabic, man. These are the reasons for Arabic, I'd say.
That's very interesting, actually, because I think you're right. When you look at it historically with Muslim Spain and that, you know, 400 or 500 year period, whatever it was, when it was the envy of the world, really, and then the center of academic, intellectual learning and knowledge. You're right. And, you know, modern Europe, or the world that we know it as today, it is either continuation or an advancement of that period, or, you know, lends itself to that period, and it has an impact. So it's actually very interesting. I think if you look at it in terms of humanity and, you know, historically, that the Arabic language over the last 700-800 years is actually a really important language for that reason, and beyond that, of course.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely ridiculous how little focus the Arabic language gets from people, Muslim or non-Muslim, right? Like it's ridiculous. Like people talk about Judeo-Christian heritage of Western society, and they often they don't add on the Islamic side, and I think that's a language thing a lot of the times, because they if they understood, they put more effort into Arabic, then, and Arabic is, like I say, it's a beast, you know, it takes a lot of taming to understand it, but I feel like it should be a major topic of interest for people, even people who are interested in, for example, computer science, right? They will find in Arabic, they could potentially find things that they missed in Arabic over the last, that could really revolutionize their discovery. There's not enough people reading.
100%. I think, like I said, Muslim Spain, obviously at a time Europe was, you know, didn't really have a civilization at that time, and then, you know, they would go to the Islamic world, which was, you know, in Spain at that time, learned Arabic, dressed like, you know, like Muslims, came back, got translated, all of that knowledge got translated into Latin, from Latin to English. So there's a clear, you know, tradition and a change there.
What I say is, let's think about perhaps what didn't get translated.
No, 100%. Yeah, a lot of, you know, some languages were burnt down and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Or right, even things, and you know, knowledge is it's always ongoing. Even manuscripts are found, and you know, even in the library of Cambridge University, it's full of manuscripts. And actually, you know, they actually say to people, look, if you're interested in manuscripts, and there's a lot of work, you know, a lot of important Islamic works that haven't, you know, there's a lot of research work to be done to provide an authentic form of that book or whatever it is. And, you know, this can be Sufi works, it can be whatever works, really.
Yeah, and
So, mashallah,
also
there's a lot of research areas.
to add to that, I mean, there is, you know, like a lot of modern Arabic literature that is also available to you. So the likes of Mahmoud Darwish, if you're interested in Palestinian resistance literature, it's amazing stuff, man. I mean, like people writing about the experience of Palestinians over the last 100 years. And we're talking about classic works of literature here. I would say on par with some of the modern classics in English, you know. And then you've got the Sudanese writers like Tayyib Saleh, and you've got poets like Nizar Qabbani, and their writing is absolutely phenomenal. So
No.
I mean, like just to give you a quote from Mahmoud Darwish, I hope I don't butcher the translation, but he says, "There's no land that carries me, so my words carry me." And you know, we're talking about a guy who was exiled from Palestine, right, by the Israelis. And so that's a line from his poetry, and it's just powerful stuff, you know. So I mean, studying Arabic brings you into these, you know, you're spending time amongst this richness, you know.
See, we haven't got much time.
Yes, Maghrib's coming, isn't it?
We're over time by a few minutes, so inshallah, just let me see what the question is. Yeah, so in just a few minutes, inshallah. So teaching and your own personal journey, how has teaching shaped or contributed to your own personal journey in terms of your own development and your relation with God, or just your own relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I am someone who enjoys teaching, even when I'm not in the classroom. Like it's something that I'd like to do. If someone says, "Can you show me how to do this?" Yeah, you know, I'll try and make it happen. You know, if someone really wants to learn how to do something, I really like explaining things to people, and I think that's why I went into teaching. I mean, in terms of my relationship with Allah, I mean, like you are the company that you keep, right? And Arabic tends to attract God-fearing people who care about their spiritual health, yeah. And so by teaching Arabic, alhamdulillah, I've been able to spend time around lots of people who are, you know, much finer examples of than I am. And and my students, I mean, we're talking about amazing people. You know, I mean, sometimes the things that students have done for me, it would bring a tear to my eye. You know, like they really have gone above and beyond to support me getting to do this thing, which is like Arabic tuition. And so it's been hugely positive to be able to share such an amazing company, and constantly be reminded of Allah by my students, because they're great people, and that's, you know, going back, this is the kind of people that attracts this topic of study. It attracts hardworking, you know, God-fearing, like loving people. And so being a teacher and trying to work out how to serve my students has definitely helped me to keep in the right company, because it's so easy nowadays to fall into the wrong company and to realize, hang on a second, I haven't actually sat with, like, you know, the people that I want to be like for ages. You know, like there's like weeks have gone by and I haven't actually sat with anyone who I aspire to be like. And so it's great to have that regularly, seeing, you know, spending time around Muslims, and it keeps you in a positive frame of mind. So yeah, I mean, I hope that answers your question.
All is well, inshallah. And so, inshallah, moving forward, what are the plans? What are any projects coming, or any open days or anything like that?
We've just taken on a batch of students. So, you know, basically, if anyone wants to interact with Ihsan Arabic or get in contact, but we have a newsletter by email, which you can find out about on the Instagram.
Inshallah, I'll share any links.
Yeah.
And
so whenever we do things, I haven't got anything in the pipeline at the moment, but you know, in a couple of months' time, we will be opening course registrations again. Sometimes I give free lessons online. I just recently did a free lesson about the root system. And you know, get in touch if you're interested in just talking about Arabic. You know, this is always something that you can that I'm always willing to talk to people and have a chat about Arabic in general. But yeah,
where would you like Ihsan Arabic to go, inshallah, and your own journey, inshallah?
I'd like Ihsan Arabic to end up as a brick and mortar school that in the countryside somewhere in the UK that that has a kind of like focus on memorizing the Quran, which I need to work with someone who could do that, and then me taking the Arabic side of things. So if I could find a Hafiz who was really interested in teaching the Quran in a beautiful way, and then to have a place in the UK where people could come, because I mean I had an experience at a madrasa which really changed my life, so I'd like to be able to offer the same. And I see Ihsan Arabic as like a moving madrasa until the facilities are available to have something that's more brick and mortar.
I was just thinking, it sounds like a madrasa. Probably wouldn't say that in public though.
But, how do you mean? Oh,
because I think the understanding of a madrasa now is Islamic studies and so on and so forth. So, you know, maybe when you get to a point when you open it, then just open it as a madrasa, inshallah.
Yeah, madrasa is just means school, isn't it? It's just a school.
Literally.
But yeah, no, I mean, I mean,
in terms of how
I think
it's socially.
Yeah.
But that was just the point anyway.
No, you mean it has negative connotations?
I wouldn't say negative. I'm just saying that it's associated with something. So I think what you're doing is slightly different. So I wouldn't mention it publicly. It was just a anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. The guys go and
people are gonna think you're teaching Islamic studies, but you're not. You understand?
But I would like to work with someone who taught Quran, for example, and then it would be Islamic studies, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but then in that moment, it makes sense to say that. You get what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I don't use the word now, but I'm saying eventually I'd like it to turn into that.
Yeah.
Like at this point, it's silly for me to say it's that because I'm not qualified in that area. Like I'm a linguist. Do you know what I mean? But eventually, if I worked with someone, I've studied the Quran and I love it. You know, like as in it's such a beautiful thing to be able to do, and I'd love to work with someone to realize that in the long term. But I do feel like it would be great to have like an Arabic program alongside the Quran as well, which would be super cool.
Naam, Sidi. So you said brick and mortar. Anything else you want to add? Inshallah, Allah will make it that. Inshallah, I'm facilitate that.
I mean, yeah, all your du'as, man. Anything else that I'd like to add?
Any concluding remarks? Any reflections, or where you'd like it to go?
I mean, I'd just like it to be a benefit to people, you know, especially people in the Midlands, you know. I like this area of it's a great place to be, and we should aim to have great things here, you know, for the people. So I think, you know, I would like Ihsan Arabic to always have a connection to that, you know, like I mean, I think I've said everything I need to say, to be honest.
Inshallah. Thank you very much. Inshallah.
Yeah, thank you.
I do need to mention a few people who are watching. Maulana Israr Hussain from Nottingham, former class fellow of mine. Allah bless you, Sidi, for tuning in. Maulana Anis, met you recently, came to Burton. Ustada Khadija, and who else is there? Maulana Imam Hassan Rabbani from Scotland. Allah bless you all for tuning in. And inshallah, if there is anyone else who I didn't catch, or Maulana Muhammad Ali Tanweer is also another fellow Jamia Al graduate. These are all, mashallah, people who know Arabic,
Nice.
scholars and teachers and imams up and down the country, mashallah. So may Allah bless you all. Thank you very much for honoring us by tuning in. Sorry I couldn't bring you on camera, but inshallah, we respect you, and may Allah bless you all, inshallah. See, I think we'll end with a quick dua because we have gone over time, inshallah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitan. But inshallah, Allah plays barakah within what you do, inshallah.
Ameen.
Billahi minash shaitan ar-rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wa laqibatul muttaqin. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina wa maulana Muhammad wa barik salli wa salli alayhi. Oh Allah, pray ya ilahana through my teacher and the Prophet alayhi salatu wa salam, and your benevolence, in your mercy and your generosity, oh Allah, that you bless us. Oh Allah, I am nothing. I pray, Ya Ilahana, that you forgive me for all of my sins. Allahumma ighfir lana dhunubana ya Ghaffar. Oh Allah, we pray and we turn to you, and I turn to you, and I pray that you bless me, my parents, my family, the Ummah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, my teachers, all beneficiaries, oh Allah, all those who are in need, grant them help. All those who are sick, grant them cure. All those who are being oppressed, wherever they are, oh Allah, grant them najat, grant them a release. And oh Allah, help them, Ya Ilahana, all teachers, all people who offer a beneficial service throughout humanity, and Muslims in particular. Oh Allah, grant them your khair, grant them your wus'ah, grant them your barakah, grant them your benevolence, oh Allah, your assistance, your success, and oh Allah, grant them an expansion within that. Any hurdles and obstructions they face, remove them from them. And oh Allah, see the Habib, who alhamdulillah has been generous with his time. Oh Allah, bless him, bless his wife and his child. Oh Allah, bless their family, and oh Allah, place barakah within what he does. Alhamdulillah, very glad to hear that, mashallah. And mashallah, Allah bless you, and oh Allah bless him, facilitate all of his pious intentions, inshallah. Grant him an expansion within that, grant him barakah within that, grant him your mercy, oh Allah, grant him your taysir, and grant him your tawfiq and your hifadha and your barakah and your hidayah and inshallah, oh Allah, whatever we need, grant us that. Oh Allah, bless us with what we need, protect us from what we don't need. And we pray, Ya Ilah, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, wa ni'mal mawla, wa ni'mal nasir. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, wa ni'mal mawla, wa ni'mal nasir. Oh Allah, you are sufficient for us and the best trustee. Oh Allah, you are sufficient for us and the best trustee. Ya Ilahana, grant us tawfiq to hand ourselves over to you. And please allow us to take on that state of tafweed and being someone who is mufawwid of all of our affairs. And Ya Ilahana, or mufawwid in ourselves. And oh Allah, grant us that beautiful state of tawakkul and allow us to, inshallah, rely on you, oh Allah, for our success and for facilitation in everything we do, from the moment we start our day to the moment we go to sleep. Ya Ilahana. Allahumma inna ala tilawati al-Quran wa dhikrika wa shukrika wa husni ibadatik wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Sister Huda Farouk, who just joined us, Waqas, Adil, and my brother, mashallah, Atif, and anyone else who, I'm sure there'll be more people whose names I can't see. Allah bless you all, inshallah. And if I know you, if I see you, inshallah, I look forward to seeing you soon. Sidi, I think we'll catch up soon, inshallah.
Yeah, man, definitely. Inshallah. Yeah, inshallah.
Much salam to the missus, and apologies I couldn't bring her on. Inshallah.
Yeah. Will do, man, will do.
Cool,
yeah, thank you so much for hosting this, man. Yeah, it's really, really nice to have this opportunity, and the work you're doing is really important. So inshallah. It's nice to witness it right now.
No problem, inshallah. With your permission, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Allah ma'ak.
Amin ya Rab.